Hello, boys and girls. Welcome to the Cool Kids Lunch Table podcast with PJ and Mike. Now, please find yourself a seat at their table.
Hey, cool kids. I'm Mike.
I'm PJ.
And today we'll be discussing unknown, unpopular comic books that are really good. And we're just going to talk about how certain comic book heroes went from obscurity to eternity, basically, who are kind of somewhat unknown, and now they're in the stratosphere, like an Iron Man. So I'm really excited to poke PJ's brain because he's the expert in this. We're in headquarters, which is his comic book store. We'll call it HQ. And I'm really excited, PJ, to talk to you about these things.
I'm always excited to talk about comic books. That is my current life, anyways. So that's my favorite thing to talk about.
Yeah, and we always start with a childhood memory. And PJ, I'm kind of curious. What's your favorite, like, unknown, unpopular, like, superhero character? You know,
And there are a few,
or any comic book character.
Well, my favorite comic book character. Anyone who knows me knows my favorite comic book character is Superman.
Yep.
But he is far from unknown or obscure or unpopular. He is probably among the top 5 most well-known comic book characters. But that's my favorite of all time. My favorite unknown character is The Question. And I'll dive into that a little bit deeper.
Yeah, because I have no idea. I have a question about that.
Yeah, I thought you might have a question about The Question. And I'll dive into that when we start really talking about the subject. But he would be one of my favorite, most unknown characters. That would probably be my favorite one.
Nice. I have two. I think they're just. I mean, I think they're known, but they're not super popular. They're actually both from X-Men. Omega Red.
Okay.
And I always liked Sauron. He was like a pterodactyl from X-Men.
Yeah.
I had their toys. I always liked them, and I felt like they were really like, especially Omega Red. I think he's a very badass character.
Yeah. You used to always fight Wolverine.
Yeah. And there's another character. This one is well known, but I just feel like I'm still baffled they haven't like made a movie out of him. And this is not obscure, but Swamp Thing. Always loved the television show as a kid. I love
Swamp Thing.
And I still feel like how do they not bring this guy around? You know?
Do you remember the old animated series for Swamp Thing?
I
love that.
I have the toys.
Me too.
It was only a very small series.
Yeah,
actually.
it was quick.
And maybe just a season. That was it.
I had all the toys. Remember, you just put one in the refrigerator and change colors.
Yeah.
I used to love that, and the song, which was Wild Thing, but it was Swamp Thing. I used to. I had it on VHS.
Whoa!
They released like the first 1 or 2 episodes, or whatever. It was like a movie as like the kickoff. I wore that tape out so fast. I watched that thing every day, over and over and over again. And it's really funny that you bring up Swamp Thing. Because he fits the trend of really dark characters that get flipped around for kids.
Yeah.
Have you ever noticed they do that a lot? Like Ninja Turtles was never for kids.
Yep.
And then they were like, nah, it is now. And then you got that old, 80s, 90s cartoon.
Yep.
Why do you think that is? Like, why do we think that they take these dark properties? Who's sitting there saying, we can make this for kids? I think that's wild when they do that.
I think they're just looking for something they go through like I feel like they go through a Rolodex of superheroes.
Right.
Like, oh, this one sounds good, and okay, it's about a guy who turns into a plant. All right, you know what? Make it kid friendly. Or Ninja Turtles. That sounds like a kid thing. You know what I mean? Like I think they don't really care about the Mask.
Yeah,
which is
another
a very
one.
violent
The
comic.
Mask is not for kids, but that movie is.
I think someone wants to make dollar signs. Sees like, okay, how can I capitalize?
Yeah,
I think that's basically what it comes down to.
It's just crazy. Like when they do it all the time. Like they take the darkest thing, and they spin it around, make it into a kid's property. It's very strange. Like my brain would never say, like, if you read those initial Ninja Turtle comic books, my brain would never be like, you know who would love this? A 5-year-old. It's they're not cute looking turtles in those comic books. Like they
all look mean.
It's just crazy.
Black and white, right?
Yeah. Anyway, I just always mind blowing when they make something like a Swamp Thing is another really dark character. The stories are not child friendly, especially the original ones. And
I think Alan Moore, right? I think he did eventually do a different side of it or whatever it is. Yeah.
His run was crazy. I think I actually have them in the store.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, it's a crazy thing. I don't know. Anyway, I just find that wild when that happens.
So PJ, I'm kind of curious. What are some of the best, like, unknown, unpopular comic book superheroes or comics that or not don't get enough love, maybe, or get enough,
So, I think here's what I think when you talk about comic books that aren't getting love, and the current books, like, here's the thing. Now that I'm in a comic book store and I'm ordering books weekly, and they pump out so much of the same shit. Really, they do.
Right. What do you mean by that? Like
your Spider-Man and your X-Men and all that.
Gotcha.
They pump so much of that out now, where it's like, I'll get a shipment of books in, and it's 14 different Batman books, like 20 different X-Men book. You get all these Avengers. Like, there's so much of the same. They don't really have, like, when you look at DC and Marvel, they don't have obscure characters anymore.
Yeah.
They're just making what's on the movies and the TV shows,
Right.
so that people will come in and buy them because they're familiar now. So when I think about obscurity and lesser known comic book characters, I go back in time. And you think about someone like a Deadpool.
Yes.
Right? Deadpool is maybe the most popular character in the world right now because of Ryan Reynolds.
Yep.
That was never like a character that was made for the masses. It was really a small group of characters, like the cult following, right?
Yeah.
And if you liked it and you felt like you were in on the joke when you read those books. I never liked the character personally, but I know there was a group of people that would follow that character, and it was like it was their thing. You know what I mean? Like, Deadpool's different. Deadpool's different. It's almost, and then once it turns to that pop culture thing, and Ryan Reynolds does it, a lot of people who used to follow that character are like, this character's ruined.
It's kind of like almost like punk rock music, where it's like, this is ours, and then Green Day gets signed, and
then you're like, now it's everyone's, and I don't want it anymore. Yeah. But like I said, for me, like, one of my favorite lesser known characters is the Question.
Yeah, you've been talking about that, dude. If someone pulled a gun to my head and said, like, okay, what does the comic book Question look like? I'm like, I don't know. Does the guy walk around with a question mark on his chest? I have no clue. So, I don't know if the guy's like a film noir, like a Dick Tracy type character. I have no clue what he looks like. Nothing.
He's
or a woman. Who knows?
He's both. The mantle was passed on to another character later on, and but the original character is Vic Sage is the character's name, and he was actually created by a very, very well-known writer back in the day. But the thing about this character is,
when did this character come out?
When did he come out?
Like when? Like
I want to say the late '60s.
Oh, okay. Is this like Marvel, DC?
It was created by Charlton.
I'm gonna keep cutting you off.
No, that's fine. It was created by Steve Ditko.
Yeah,
which is a legend in the comic book industry.
Yep.
And in the late '60s, actually debuted in a Blue Beetle comic book.
Oh.
Yeah, the original Blue Beetle, and it was not a DC or a Marvel book. It was a Charlton book, and Charlton comic books. I could have an entire episode just based on the importance of Charlton published books.
Right.
They've produced so many different characters that don't get the love they deserve. But my favorite, like I said, has always been the Question, and he's a reporter, and he becomes the Question when he's investigating.
Right.
And he's a man with no face. So when you were to look at the Question, he wears, like you said, Dick Tracy.
Yep.
He wears a fedora. Right. He has the coat, right? Like the longer coat.
Like a trench coat kind of thing?
Yeah, like a suit. But it's like a suit, like a detective might wear, like that look. But when he's the Question, he has no face.
When he puts like a mask on, is that the mask? Or like a power or something?
It's like, it's a mask, and it adheres to his face with like a gas. So like he puts it on and he pushes a gas, and then it sticks to his face, and now it looks like you can't tell who he is because he has no features, no eyes, no nose, no mouth. It's just a man that you can't see, and he was created in the '60s, and he didn't have a big following, but DC bought Charlton Comics, and then they kind of started reintroducing them, and that's kind of where I met the Question. I've gone back and read all the stuff from the when because I was enthralled with the character. I met him. I don't know how else to say it, but I met him in the '90s when I was really starting to get into comics. Right, when I was a kid, I read Superman, Batman, the stuff on the shelf. My dad would buy it for me. But then when I started to really like love comics and you
Yeah.
want to know everything
You
about
want
it,
deep dives, yep.
that's when I found the question. And the reason I found the question is there was a series in the late 80s written by Dennis O'Neil, Denny O'Neil. And for our listeners, if they're not entrenched in the comic book world, Denny O'Neil wrote some of the most well-known Batman comics. He was a legend
Right.
in Batman. And it was, so I knew the name. I'm like,
Sure.
oh, this is the guy that wrote Batman, and now he's writing this. Maybe I'll find an interest in it. And he brought to this character like a supernatural element, where he goes to Nanda Parbat and he learns different techniques for karate and kung fu and all this kind of stuff, right? But he works at a news station. He's a reporter, and when he's investigating, how is he going to find out what he needs to? Well, he becomes the question. And that's, the idea of it is, as a reporter, he has to find answers.
Right.
So he's the question. It's a play on words.
Okay.
And he works at a hub city. And Hub City is like, how there's Metropolis and Gotham, right?
Right.
And people will like compare it to like New York, and Metropolis is the good side of New York, and then Gotham is like the really shitty part of New York. Hub City is like, it makes Gotham look like Metropolis.
Right.
Right. It's really a bad city, a lot of crime, a lot of corruption. And so the question is the hero of this city. And he's always trying to find ways to find out what's happening in the underworld. And what I liked about the character is that it's not a bright, shiny hero.
Right.
It's always at night. It's always very dark. It's always like,
Kind of reminds me of like Blade Runner, like that kind of vibe, like a dirty city.
like a dirty, yes, exactly. And that's kind of where that character fits in the best. You can't have this character mingling with the rest because it doesn't make sense for him to be in a place where it's not that crazy. He's trained by Richard Dragon. I don't know if you've ever heard of that character. That's another obscure DC character.
So he knows how to fight, I'm assuming.
He knows how to fight,
So
yeah.
The question has no real super powers.
Right, no-
He just knows
right.
how to
Right.
box, whatever,
Yep.
martial arts and this.
Yep.
And this gas mask, whatever he has,
Right.
that manipulates his face to be invisible.
Yeah, exactly.
Whatever.
And he has fought some of like Batman's villains, like the Riddler has been in there. He's done a lot of team ups with characters like Green Arrow. He sticks to that level of character, like a street level characters. He's not hanging out with Superman and Green Lantern.
Right.
That's not where he fits in. And you don't hear from him as much. There was one series I'd be hard pressed to tell you the year. We'll call it early 2000s,
right,
where it took place in Metropolis, which was a different setting for him because he's not usually in that bright of a city. And the whole theme of that comic was the city speaks to me. I don't speak to the city. The city tells me where I need to be.
Right.
And that's how I know what questions to ask, what needs answers, what to investigate. And it's a very cerebral character. It's a very, like I said, supernatural element to it. He's always kind of on the verge of maybe being on that supernatural path.
Right.
There's a lot where he's investigating things like drugs and stuff like that, like drug deals and gangs, and it's not your typical book when you think of a DC comic. And interestingly enough, do you remember? Well, you remember The Watchmen?
Yeah, I was just about to say, like a Rorschach kind of character.
Rorschach is based on The Question.
Ah.
So when they came out with that series with The Watchmen,
well, The Watchmen, each character is kind of like a goof, like not a goof, but like you have Dr. Manhattan is basically Superman.
Well, right. So
a Night Owl, whatever that guy's name is, he's Batman or whatever it is.
It's actually based on these Charlton characters. So the Rorschach is based on The Question. It's not based on Batman Night Owl. He's based on their Blue Beetle.
Oh.
And he's not based on Superman. It's actually Captain Atom.
Oh.
Right. And it's and the original draft of that book was based on. It was supposed to be the Charlton characters.
Huh.
And I guess I don't know the backstory. Someone would probably know it more than I do. But essentially, I don't know if they thought it wasn't marketable enough, or they felt like they wanted to bring these characters back, so they didn't want to
like maybe potentially tarnish them in some way, right?
So he went out and he made his own characters based on them. But Rorschach would have been the question.
It makes a lot of sense.
So
So that to say, this sounds a lot like a mix, especially with the mask.
Yes,
it sounds like his face knows the Rorschach design.
That's exactly what it's based on.
Holy crap!
So when I talk about my favorite obscure character, he will always be number one. And like I said, they've done a lot with him over the years to make him more supernatural, more mysterious, and things like that. They've passed down his mantle to. This is when it got a little goofy for me. They passed. Do you remember? I don't know if you remember the character Renee Montoya from Batman. She was in the animated series. She's one of the cops. She was
okay,
yeah.
Okay.
So they wound up they passed the mantle down to her and that's when for me I'm like, I get it. Like Gotham is a darker city. They want to keep the trademark, but it didn't connect with me because I felt like it needs to be more separate. But they've tried to revitalize the character that way. One of the things they've done recently is they've brought back Checkmate. And Checkmate is an underground organization, and they're always like
that group fights the Question or whatever.
Well, he winds up being part of them, and he becomes more of a conspiracy theorist.
Oh, okay.
And that's like a conspiracy theorist underground kind of branch of the government that's trying to keep things from the public and stuff like that.
Yep.
But that is my favorite of the obscure characters.
Mm-hmm.
And then
that's the part of the DC, and he's still being made today, or
he's actually had a bit of a resurgence because, like I said, they brought back that Checkmate book and gave him a pretty big part. He was in the cartoon. Remember the Justice League cartoon? Yeah. There was like the first 2 or 3 seasons, and they rebranded Justice League Unlimited.
Yeah,
and they had like all the characters in it. He actually had a really interesting part in that, and that actually made him a little bit more popular for a while. They almost made him almost like Mulder from the X-Files, where he was questioning everything and big into conspiracies. In my mind, there's no reason why he shouldn't have had a movie made yet. You can totally make a very stylized movie with that character.
Mm-hmm. I felt like they could make a good Sin City type style.
Yeah, a very noir.
Yep. I dig it, man. Okay.
So, and then another one I put on my list of obscure characters was Deadman.
Deadman?
Yes.
Is this the Undertaker from wrestling?
Yes, he has a big black hat. No, he's he actually he's another interesting character.
Is this DC or Marvel?
DC okay. Also. He was a trapeze artist.
Okay.
And his gimmick in the circus was that he almost dies every time. Until the one time where
actually
he dies. Exactly. And it's is a supernatural element, so he winds up dying, but he doesn't cross over, so he's a ghost. His name is Boston Brand. That's the name of the character, his secret identity, if you will. But then what winds up happening is he stays as a ghost, essentially. And he can inhabit other people's bodies.
Oh.
So you can't see him, and you can't hear him, but he's there. And now if he needs to talk to somebody or interact with somebody, he has to, his spirit or whatever has to jump into the body of somebody else, and he takes over their body.
Oh, okay.
And then, that's how he can interact. Otherwise, he can't. Right. And I thought that was always a cool gimmick because it's like...
Right. Yeah, no, of course. I'm curious. I don't know what he looks at all. Is he like, when there's a panel just of that character, is he like a ghost? Like, do you see him? Is he like,
He wears his face is all white. Right. His body is white, but he wears a red circus outfit. It almost reminiscent of like the Flying Graysons, but it's all red. It looks kind of like Daredevil-y. It's got a D on the chest, and but it looks like a circus performer outfit, but no one knows he's there. He's there. The audience, the reader knows he's there,
right?
But none of the other characters knows he's in the panel with them. He's always teamed up a lot with Batman lately. Oh. And Batman always seems to know he's there because he's Batman. There's always like a fun dynamic because Deadman, Boston Brand, he's more, I don't want to use the word lighthearted. Everyone's more lighthearted than Batman, but he's got like a more of a lightheartedness to him, even though he shouldn't. Mm-hmm. And so, he can always tell, like Batman can always tell when he's in someone's body. And in the middle of the conversation, Batman will be like, all right, Boston, what do you need? Like, and then they team up. And the most recent storyline that Boston Brand, Deadman, had a big part in was called Night Terrors. It's all about a villain getting into the minds of the heroes in the DC universe. And the villains took place in the nightmares, trying to trap the characters in their nightmares. So they do a thing where all of the characters fall asleep, and now the villain is trying to defeat them. So Batman falls asleep.
Right.
But Deadman can't fall asleep. Deadman's dead.
Right.
So while Batman's fighting the villains while he's sleeping in his nightmares, Deadman takes over Batman's body. So Batman is asleep fighting villains in his brain. Deadman is taking over his body and fighting crime in the real world.
In the real
world.
Oh, okay.
It's a very unique, very different take on things. And, you find out Deadman can't get tired in Batman's body because Deadman's just a ghost using the body. It's like your car's not going to get tired. Your bike's not going to get tired, right?
Right.
So when the villain is inevitably beaten and Batman finally wakes up, he can't even move. He's like, he needs like weeks of recuperation because Boston Brand overused his body.
So is there like what's his limitations? Like, does he only has 24 hours of being a body? Like, can he go?
He can be in it as long as he wants.
Okay.
There's no limitation.
He can go into women, all that kind of stuff.
He can go into anyone he wants. Yeah, whatever he wants.
Dogs? Can he do animals? Or?
They've never. I don't think they've ever done it, but I think he could. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
The limitation or the thing for him is that he doesn't want to be dead, right? Or he didn't want to die. But now that he's a ghost, he would rather be dead. But he can't cross over, so he's stuck in a purgatory of real life that he can't enjoy.
And what drives him to be a detective? Just because he feels a sense of responsibility, or
basically he's just like
I should use his power to do something, or maybe if I do this, I'll get granted to heaven, kind of thing. Like maybe I have to do something good.
Yep.
Okay. No, nice.
So those are two obscure characters that I generally have an affinity towards.
And he's still around, Deadman. He's still getting produced. Okay.
Yep. He doesn't have his own book right now, but he was a big part of, like I said, that Night Terror story that just ended. He shows up in Batman books a lot. The Question doesn't have his own book right now. He did have a limited run in the DC Black line a couple of years back. He's been in the Checkmate book, like I said, for a while. He pops in and out. He's a character that they don't keep around a lot. They bring him out when they need that sort of a character. They don't publish him regularly anymore.
Makes sense. Okay.
So with that,
So PJ, I kind of want to talk about other superhero characters who just went from I'll just say from nobody to somebody, and I'll just kind of because when you and I were kids, I remember you kind of gave me the comic books 101, and I remember I got Thor comic books, but no one knew who Thor. I knew because of you. But my mom didn't know.
Right.
My dad knew because he was a kid. He had that. But other people, my brother didn't know Thor.
Right.
But all these other characters now went from nobodies to somebodies. Like I said, everyone knows who Thor is. And I think I think I'm going to ask you this question because I know Marvel. They always said their biggest character was Spider-Man.
Yep.
Right. Do you think now their biggest character is Iron Man? You think he's their number one guy now?
In the movies, he definitely is. In the comic books, no.
No? Okay.
So, here's what Marvel did with those movies. And we talk about heroes who went from obscurity to the height of popularity, right? So, when they were making those movies, when Marvel started making the movies, they were limited as to what they could do because they had sold off a lot of the rights. So, Spider-Man was sold to Sony. Spider-Man was sold to Sony. X-Men, I think, was sold to Fox.
Yep.
Daredevil might have been Fox also.
I believe so. Mm-hmm.
But all of their characters were they were going bankrupt. And they needed to find a way to make money to keep the company afloat. So they started selling off their rights to make movies to these other companies. They did a thing with Universal. That's why they have the Marvel World or whatever in there. Which they're kicking themselves in the ass for now because Disney would love to have a Marvel park and they can't.
Yep.
But that's what happened. They sold them off. So now they want to get into the movie business because now they're no longer bankrupt. They're becoming very popular in the comic book world again. they didn't have a lot to choose from as to what they could make movies on. So one of their characters that they had that had a long history was Iron Man.
Yep.
So they said, well, we'll start with Iron Man. He was an Avenger. He's not completely unknown, but he's not the most popular or anything like that. That's why they started with Iron Man. And if you didn't have Robert Downey Jr., that movie would have went nowhere.
Yep.
Robert Downey Jr. sold that entire movie on it. He carried that universe on his back, if you ask me. But so you have a character like Iron Man, and now he gets that bump. And everyone wants to read the Iron Man books. And for a while, they were very good because they were really trying to push that as their top guy because of the movies. Generally speaking, there are very good runs on Iron Man. He's not perpetually good or habitually good.
Right.
He's still, when you read those books, a lower tier book. There's not an amazing run. There are times it's very, very good. He's more popular. He sells more now than he would have in the past. But the book itself is still not the most popular one being produced.
Right. Okay. Interesting. Because I know, like, you can correct me if I'm wrong. I know. I want to tie this into Captain America because I think the way I think originally his character, I think came from like maybe like the Vietnam, right? And then that's what he gets captured. And that's how he kind of becomes the power. Like
Which one? Iron Man?
Iron Man, right? And then when they made the movie, they made like he basically from like he goes to Afghanistan. They kind of updated.
They updated it for the movie. Absolutely.
That's his first origin is Vietnam, right?
Was it Vietnam or was it? It might have been. Yeah, I'm trying to think. It was the '60s, so that had to be Nam.
Okay.
Yeah. But it was the same origin that they did in the movie. It was just a different war because they had to make it timely.
Yep. Mm-hmm. And I just and just other superheroes, and you correct me if I'm wrong, PJ, with this one too. Captain America was like huge, like back in the 40s because you had World War II, and then he went like basically he was like becoming like obsolete, and then they invented the Avengers that brought him back to
exactly. He comes out of the ice. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And then almost I feel like now he kind of came back another resurgence just from all the movies. You know.
Now Captain America has had some fantastic runs since those movies have come out, and even a little bit before those movies. But there are times, like you said, he was a nobody.
Yep.
The stories weren't good. The character wasn't interesting.
Right.
Captain America and Superman, to an extent, have a stigma that they're not the most interesting character because they're too good.
Right.
And Captain America falls into that trap. He's a Boy Scout. He's, a perfect gentleman.
Right,
He's
no flaws.
Exactly.
Like inner turmoil kind of thing.
Right.
Or whatever.
And so a lot of people will find that if it's not written perfectly, it becomes a little boring, a little uninteresting. But the movies kind of gave him a resurgence. But there have been a number of Captain America runs, even recently, that have been really stellar, to the point where Captain America is one of the bigger heroes. They're still using the two Captain Americas right now. You have Steve Rogers and you have Sam Wilson. They are sticking with the double Captain Americas, which then I don't think they'll ever get away from at this point. I don't think they'll ever go back to just Steve Rogers being Captain America. I don't think they'll make Sam Wilson just the Falcon anymore. Right. But there have been really good runs.
Who I know we're jumping all around. I'm just kind of curious. Like they say, like there are three. Like everyone, like for DC, their top, like their main guys are Batman, Superman, and I think Wonder Woman.
Yeah, that's correct? They call them the Trinity.
Okay, who's the Holy Trinity for Marvel? It's got to be Spider-Man.
Spider-Man for sure.
Is it? I'm gonna guess Wolverine or no?
I would say that's probably their number 2 guy.
And then who's number 3? Like I really can't. Is it Iron Man or is it Captain America? You know, because you're not gonna pick. Quite honestly, it's not gonna be Thor.
No,
it's not gonna be.
There's an argument to be made that it could be the Hulk.
Oh, okay. There you go.
There's an argument there where the Hulk is maybe their top guy. You got to look at it in terms of visibility and recognition. The one thing I always say, look, I read all the books, DC and Marvel. I don't discriminate. I like a lot of both. I lean DC when it comes to my favorite characters. DC has more iconic characters. There's no way around it. The Justice League, people will make fun of Aquaman, but you can ask anyone on the street who Aquaman is, and they'll laugh and be like, he talks to fish.
Right.
They'll remember him from the Super Friends cartoon, right?
Yep.
Oh, that's the guy with the goofy orange shirt and he rides around the giant seahorse or whatever.
Right.
But you know who he is. He's an icon.
Yep.
You go out and ask, 100 people who Namor is.
Right.
They're not going to know.
Nope,
Some
no,
of them
no.
will because they've seen the movie now.
Right.
Take that last, Black Panther movie out of the equation.
Yeah.
Not many people, unless you're into
Even that
comic books.
character, Black Panther, was not a.
He was a no value.
He was
also.
another no. Like besides people like us, yes.
Right.
But I'm talking about the mainstream.
They
people.
wouldn't know
Now my
Black
dad
Panther.
knows, or my mom knows.
He's become a household name because of the movies.
Yep.
But that's another character that was a nobody. I would think Marvel's biggest characters, as I look around trying to see what sticks out to me, Spider-Man 100% would be on there. Wolverine is always very popular. I would personally say the Hulk.
That's a really good one. I
That's-
completely forgot about him. That's a good one.
They don't have.
Not Captain America though.
I mean, he's up there for
He's like
them.
probably like top 5. Those
Yeah,
top 10,
absolutely.
somewhere.
Yeah, I just think in terms of recognition,
Yes. Yep.
I think the Hulk is still. The shield is a recognizable symbol. His shield, the Captain
Yeah.
America shield.
Yeah.
I think maybe he's in your number 4, or number 5 spot, definitely. But the Marvel characters to me, I mean, maybe Fantastic Four as a group
Yep.
would be a top 3 instead of the Hulk. Maybe you would say the
Yeah.
group together.
Yeah, I think DC. I agree, has like the more iconic, but I do like the gallery. I think they have. I think Marvel does have a more tasty like bunch of characters more
Right.
than DC. DC I think has those main dudes, and that's it.
I
Like
think
besides like these like the question or those.
I mean,
but I'm
when-
talking about like
yeah, when you
I mean,
look
think
at
about
DC,
the Spider-Man's. I'm
yeah.
cutting you off, but it's just the Spider-Man villains I love. Or
Oh,
the X-Men
some of
villains,
the
or
best
the
villains.
X-Men heroes.
Spider-Man is some of the best villains in all of comic
Just
books.
that
Probably
could-
the top.
You can even
rogue gallery
argue
in the
was
world.
better than
Yeah.
but-
DC. What DC has is they have Superman, they have Batman, they have Wonder Woman, they have the Flash.
Yep.
You have Green Lantern,
Yep.
Aquaman. These characters, they're
Harley Quinn's a
Harley
powerhouse
Quinn.
now.
Yeah.
Yep.
These
Joker. I mean, all the Batman villains they're the best Batman
Absolutely.
villains.
I mean, even as someone like a Lex Luthor, like he's
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
a household name. Like these are characters that, in my opinion, transcend comic books more than a lot of the Marvel characters do.
Mm-hmm.
When Marvel has, like you said, a variety of different types of characters,
Mm-hmm.
but they, other than your Spider-Man, like how many have reached the level of a Batman or a Superman? Probably not many.
No way.
It's just
The only one who's on that same like the Mount Rushmore of like superstardom is gonna. I think if you picked like your top 4, I think it would be Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, and I think Spider-Man. That's the biggest superheroes of all
I
time.
agree.
Those
I
those
agree.
4 right there. That's the murderer's row right there.
Yeah, those are your top guys, and anything Stan Lee had a piece in is going to be good. So
Yep.
Stan Lee created Spider-Man.
Yep.
Created the X-Men.
Yep.
He didn't create Wolverine, but he created the X-Men.
Yep.
There are Marvel characters that I like, but I don't think that they will ever reach the heights of a Superman or a Batman.
Right. Yeah, that's hard, and there's nothing wrong with that.
No.
I think, and I'm just curious, PJ, your opinion of these other characters who've been from like basically nobodies to somebodies. Ant-Man. I mean, could you imagine like back in the 90s, you and I hanging out? Because I remember you telling me about him.
Yeah.
Oh, there's a dude who actually goes, can talk to ants and all that stuff. I didn't know what he looked like,
Right.
but I remember you. I swear to God, I remember you talking about him. It's like Ant-Man. I mean, that itself, Paul Rudd does a great job. But
Paul
even
Rudd's
that-
great and everything. He's a very likable guy. The thing with Ant-Man, I mean, that movie is not my
I
favorite.
like the first one.
I actually like the newest one,
Oh wow!
which is the one everyone seems to dislike. That's the one I like the most.
Wow.
I like the character. The original Ant-Man, Hank Pym, had an interesting storyline. There was the whole thing about his abusing his wife, which was one panel where he slapped his wife, and
Right.
I'm not saying it was okay,
Right.
But I mean, if you look at the time that book came out in and the story
Yes.
around it, and it defined that character for years, and they never let it go to the point where they had to replace him, and they put a different character in there, and that's Paul Rudd's character, is Scott Lang. There have been other Ant-Men as well. My favorite was the Irredeemable Ant-Man, which was like just a real scummy guy that basically stole the suit and was wearing it around and he would
Right.
he would turn into he would shrink down real small and
Right.
sneak into like women's locker rooms where they can't see him when they're in their
Right,
shower and
right,
stuff. And he was the Eric O'Grady, I think, was the character's name. He was the irredeemable Ant-Man. And
Right.
I always thought that was a great run in the book. The art was
Yep.
great. It was funny. It was different. But he's a household name because of that movie, but they don't make an Ant-Man comic book right now.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
can't
yeah.
buy an Ant-Man comic.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just curious about these other two. I always liked this character, and he's another one who became from nobody to somebody. Doctor Strange.
Yeah. So Doctor Strange is often in the overlooked because his books they're a little heady. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of like science or magic mumbo jumbo that doesn't always. Sometimes it's a bit much.
I know
for
you
me.
don't really like much matter.
Yeah,
You like sci-fi.
I like sci-fi. Yeah,
Right.
For me, I'm like,
I always think you saying there was one of the episodes like I need an alien.
Yeah.
I need something grounded, which
Yeah.
I get, which I
Yeah,
understand.
yeah,
I get that.
like to me, the magic doesn't always sit well with me. I have a book right here in front of me though called Strange. It's a Marvel Knights run, very good. The idea of his origin, I always found interesting.
Right.
You know, he was an actual doctor. His hands get broken in the accident. Now he can't perform medicine. Tries to get himself healed, and he, becomes the sorcerer. It's interesting and it's unique. And the movie, I think, the first movie is one of my favorite Marvel movies.
Okay, yeah, I love the first Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
I don't. What I think what hurts that film is he didn't need a love story. His character,
agree.
but I love the ending. Remind me of Star Trek.
Yeah.
I don't want to spoil. I know it's been out for a while because I think it's worth watching. But I love the ending.
I
think
do
it's-
like the ending of
I
that
think it's
too.
a bit too short of the villain fight. We know it's because he's going
Right.
to fight somebody, but. I was very Star Trekky. He was very smart, almost Twilight Zone-y. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
right?
no, I agree. I didn't like the second one very much.
Um,
That was the Multiverse of Madness.
I didn't even see it. I honestly, I can't review. I didn't see it, but for me, I know
didn't like
Sam
it.
Raimi made it.
Yeah.
But I just know from like the trailers and other people, it's like I feel it's really more about what's that name? That's that girl, Scarlet Witch, right?
Yeah, it was
Why are
not.
they doing that? Just I want to be on. Well, I guess we'll get into that shortly. Just
Yeah.
about like the lack of focus. But I'm just curious about this other one, PJ, Captain Marvel. But besides the action, I'm just talking about the comic.
Which Captain Marvel?
Oh, I guess Brie Larson. I know
Okay.
there's two, right? There's
So, because there's the DC Captain Marvel, who now we only call Shazam.
wow.
Yeah,
okay.
that was the original Captain Marvel.
Why did he change his name to Shazam? Because
Here's what happened.
the Marvel got big or some shit.
So-
back in the day.
He was originally made by Fawcett Comics. DC bought Fawcett Comics, but the name of that character was Captain Marvel, and he got his powers by shouting the name of the wizard Shazam.
Mm-hmm.
It was the wisdom of Solomon, the strength of Hercules, the speed of that, whatever, right? And he would say it, and he would become Captain Marvel. And fun fact, Elvis's favorite superhero is Captain Marvel Jr., which is the sidekick of Captain Marvel.
Wow.
That's Elvis's favorite superhero, Elvis Presley.
I did not know that.
Yeah, so he was Captain Marvel. Now, that was the name of the book, but the Marvel also had a character called Captain Marvel, and it got a little sketchy with the copyright. I think they let the copyright lapse, and then Marvel secured the copyright. They couldn't call the book Captain Marvel anymore. DC, they couldn't call. So they wound up calling the book The Power of Shazam. Because he would yell Shazam and he becomes the power, right? So but his superhero name was Captain Marvel. But over time, they just started to phase that out, and he just became Shazam. The reason that is stupid is his name is Shazam. He has to say the name Shazam to get his powers. So if anyone was like, "Hey, what's your name?" Shazam, bam. Fuck, I lost my powers.
Right.
It's stupid, and that kind of killed the character for a while. They didn't write him perfectly. Then there's the Marvel Captain Marvel, the Marvel Comics Captain Marvel, who was Brie Larson in the movies. I don't really have an issue with Brie Larson. People seem to hate her. The character itself is a dud.
The movie was awful. That movie's bad,
It's terrible.
man.
The character's a dud. The original Captain Marvel in Marvel Comics was his name was Mar-Vell. And he was an alien, just like in the movies or whatever. And Mar-Vell, he dies, and it's the only only comic character death really that is stuck. They've never brought him back. It's a very emotional death. He dies of like cancer in the books,
Jesus, right.
and then he has his son Genus Vell, which is
Right. Kind
Right.
of say.
So right. So then eventually, Carol Danvers, winds up becoming Captain Marvel. She was Ms. Marvel was her name, and
Yep.
she winds up taking on the mantle of Captain Marvel.
Okay.
The character is a dud. Some of the books have been okay.
Right.
I have the first time she makes her full appearance as Captain Marvel isn't even in her own book. It's in a Spider-Man book.
Wow.
She makes her first appearance with the name Captain Marvel in an issue of, I think it's Avenging Spider-Man. I forget the number. So she doesn't even make her debut as Captain Marvel in her own book.
Right.
That should tell you how that character is going.
Two more things I want to ask you about, PJ. Then I have a third little mystery question that I
All
came
right.
up with about you inspired by the question.
Okay.
Okay. It has nothing to do with the question, but
Okay.
anyway. I'm curious your thoughts about the Suicide Squad. Because I freaking out, I never really knew about the Suicide Squad until they said they released the film. I love the concept. Unfortunately, the first film is one of the worst films ever, in my opinion.
That movie suffered from...
The second one's great, though.
I love the second one.
Was
The first one suffered from
studio interference.
studio interference. That was
and
not the
writing
movie he
mess
wanted to
and
make.
woo.
And they were in the problem with that whole Snyderverse of movies falling apart. And
Yep.
that movie became a casualty of all of that. The comic book, the original ones, I think it was Ostrander who came up with it. I like the idea.
In the comic books, was it like? Did you have like? Was it all like the B like villains who were in it? Or,
Yeah,
like,
it
did you ever
was-
have like a Joker? Obviously, he's not gonna die. But
Yeah,
you're not gonna have him.
it's
He's
usually
not-
like your death strokes or your dead shots or your
Yep.
You know, it wasn't Harley in the beginning. That was added on way later on. But the idea of a bunch of villains trying to earn their freedom by taking a they're the suicide. They're Task Force X is the name of that group. It's like a government
Right,
thing.
yep.
And they're the Suicide Squad because every mission is a suicide mission.
Yeah,
And if
yeah.
they go against it, they blow up the bomb implanted in their neck and the person dies. That's why
Yeah.
they're the Suicide Squad. It's a great concept. There have been some excellent runs. There have been some shitty runs like any other book. I love the idea of it. I don't think Harley needs to be part of it.
No.
I think that's just oversaturation of the character.
Yep.
But I like the idea of that book. I like the original run. I like some of the more recent ones.
Yep.
I just think sometimes they do this rotating cast of characters where they're like, Harley's going to be in it for a while because she's real popular, and then King Shark will be in it because people think a talking shark is funny on the Harley Quinn TV show.
Right.
Let's put that character in the
Yep.
book. I don't go for that. Just give me a team
Right.
and keep it that team.
Right.
And very rarely does anyone actually earn their freedom.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's just like I think it's best in short bursts that concept. Give me a
Sure.
mini series of that. You know, maybe 4 to 6 issues. They do a mission. Maybe they guest star in like a Justice League book. I think that's better than giving them their own title.
Yeah. No, of course. Well,
In the movie, the second one I thought was very good. James Gunn really made a fun movie. The first one should have been good, and it wasn't.
No way. No way. The last thing I want to talk about quickly is this guy is one of the best villains of all time now. He really rose there, in my opinion. I knew about him before the movies and all that stuff. Is you got to give it. I think his cousin might be Darth Vader. It's Thanos. I mean, he's the new Darth Vader of this generation. He is. He's the villain. You know, I know they've ruined Darth
Yeah.
Vader to a degree now. He's not as. They kind of took his balls out, really. But Thanos. He's bad. He's a bad boy. And-
Only in
and-
the movies.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
In the
Well, in the
comics,
Right.
so in the comics, the reason he does the whole thing is he wants to impress Lady
I
Death.
was gonna say like that, and lady, because it almost sounds weird. It was almost. Is it like a supernatural thing, or was she a hero? Was she like a god?
She's just like Death,
Like
you
a
know?
Grim Reaper kind of thing?
He wants to impress Lady Death, and so he's gonna kill everyone to do it.
right. Was he like? Was he has the hots for her? Is that what's
Yeah,
the goal? Okay.
that's basically what it is, and it's just like it was not. If you read that comic book, that the Infinity Gauntlet and all that
Right.
is nothing like the movie at all.
Would you argue the movie's better? I'm talking about the not like Like
Yeah, I would
the-
say the storyline of the movie is
Right.
way better than the one from the comic. Oh, I wouldn't even question that.
Right.
The movies
I don't
took
think the movie would have worked if he had to like impress some
it wouldn't
woman and
right.
would have
It
made
wouldn't feel right.
Yeah, him
The-
just being a nut.
The
like,
problem with the movie, this is gonna make me sound like a nut, is that Thanos was right.
I know. I love these kind of. I love
That's
when
the
people talk
problem
about
with
it.
the movie. They don't make him a villain.
Well, that's what made his character very interesting because his. But being objectively, he brought up like a, we're. I think of like the Matrix about Agent
Right.
Smith. He's like,
Yep.
human race is a virus, and we got to
Yep.
put ourselves in check. Obviously, none of us are advocating for human extinction or
I mean,
eradication
I'm
or
not
anything.
saying that we should kill all the humans. I'm just
But-
saying
Right.
the point that he made in the movie is that you
what's what
can't.
makes him interesting?
Yeah, because the idea was everyone was like, well, instead of killing half the population, he
Right.
could have doubled the resources.
Right.
But the whole point that he was trying to make is it doesn't matter if we have one of something or a billion of something. People are going to waste it and abuse it, and it will be gone regardless. If
Right.
we have less people, the resources will last longer. And he's
Right.
not really wrong.
Right. No, you're
That's
right.
the thing. He's
Right.
not wrong.
Right.
And what makes him a villain is he's killing
Right.
people,
Right.
which is bad.
Which is not good.
It is not good.
That's not good for you.
It is not good. You shouldn't kill people. But I mean, like, if you got rid of half the people, it
Right.
does solve all of the issues in the planet.
Well, that might be a bit of extreme. Yes.
Now, think about it.
Right.
Like, what's the problem? This is the biggest problems we have.
Well, if you eliminated, like, let's say half the population, I think you would still have like issues between certain countries. Like,
Well, it depends, because half of that
Right.
country might be gone.
well, let's say you had the Thanos rings or gauntlet.
Right.
Like you say, I'm going to wipe out the half population of each country. Let's say you
Right.
still might have beef
Right,
between,
right. I guess.
Israel, maybe
I get it. But I mean, like, you don't. I mean, you could. If I had the gauntlet or you had the gauntlet, we could pick and choose. That's the
Right.
thing. That's the
oh my
beauty of it.
God! Right. Oh my God! We're getting really sick and twisted.
But I mean, he's not. The thing in the movie is he's just not wrong.
Right.
And so yeah, you don't want to kill all the people.
Right. I think. Well, I think that's what makes. You can't really make. Cause I'm thinking about Darth Vader for a second, because
He wasn't a bad guy either.
Right. Well, they made him. I think they made. Here, I guess we'll slight
detour, but
slight detour. Okay, so I feel with the original trilogy with Darth Vader, Anakin's
Right.
arc.
Mhm.
He never. I think we talked about this in our Star Wars episode,
Yeah.
but I guess we'll go deeper into it for a second. I feel like I never, even when I was a kid or as an adult, before even the prequels, before they came out, I always felt I always thought he was just a really, really good soldier who used like an ancient religion to like elevate his
Right.
game. That was it. I never felt he was like. I never thought when I saw Darth Vader, I felt like he lived by like a code. Like I felt like he'd be like, I'm not gonna like kill kids. Like I have I
Right.
draw my lines. I'm a soldier of war, but I'm not gonna kill kids.
well, they changed that.
Exactly. Like, do I feel like Darth Vader would kill a woman? For sure.
Yeah.
Like, he'd probably be like, look, I'll give you one. Like, you get one, you get 2 strikes, that's it.
Right.
That would be it. Like, but he's not going to deliberately, like, I don't
Right.
see him just executing people for joy. It'll always be for, like, a military
Right.
reason or to keep people in line.
Right.
It was never to be, like, he never got off at it. He
Right.
didn't, like, take his helmet off and, like, have a cigarette afterwards. You know what I mean? I feel like, but then when they had the prequels, they, like, I think George Lucas went like, "Oh my God, he's the most feared man. We got to have him kill kids." I never thought of that. So when I saw him in the ears wiping out
I laughed.
younglings, I loved it. I mean, of course, the sick part of me loved it because
I thought it was
great.
hysterical.
But I never felt that.
That
Anyway,
little kid's like, Master Skywalker, what are we gonna? He's like, "Wah,"
right.
and that's it.
I guess what I'm trying to say is like, if you really think about the movies and the timeline they're made, it's like then Darth Vader can't be redeemed because once you start killing kids. You can't have Luke say, "Dad, you're actually a good guy." Like, no, bro.
He
Like,
killed a bunch of
yeah, you
kids.
should be definitely dead.
Yeah,
That's why,
well-
But I
here's
think with
the other
Thanos,
thing.
he doesn't have that redeemable quality because he's just
He's killing everyone.
right. He's just killing everybody. And
here's the other thing
do I
about
think
Star
he gets
Wars.
off on it?
The
somewhat
Empire
'cause he
wasn't
feels-
wrong. The Empire's not the villains here, guys.
PJ.
All right. Look, I don't mean to make a joke out of things, but if we just talk about the original Star Wars,
Right.
Episode 4,
Right.
there's a government.
Right.
Now, whether you're a fan of the government or you're not a fan of the government,
Right.
like, there's a government and they're governing,
Right.
for better or worse.
Right.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And then there's a government building,
Right.
which
Right.
which is the Death Star.
Right.
Think about it. The Death Star might as well be a White House, right?
Right.
It's where the leader of the government lives. And then these radicals
Right.
take a spaceship
Right.
and fly it into the building
Right.
and blow it up. And we're like,
know, but-
the heroes are here.
Right. But they also blew up planets with the Death Star. You
They
know?
did, but again, the White House,
Right.
we've done some questionable things.
Right.
We consider ourselves the hero in everything that we do.
Right.
And we're like, bleeding red, white, and blue, motherfucker, America.
Right.
We have done some questionable shit, but we accept it because we're doing it.
Right. You're right.
So take that and apply that to Star Wars. The government has done some questionable shit, and yeah, it's probably not good. But if you're there,
Right.
well, you're okay with it because, well, we did it. So
Right.
then the rebellion are essentially terrorists.
Right.
And
I guess it comes from your point of view, like
Right.
where you're from.
Well,
more.
that's what Obi-Wan says. Everything
Right.
is true from a certain point of view.
Yep.
They made Darth Vader irredeemable by having him kill the kids. I
Yeah.
agree. Although
So-
that's one of the best scenes in the movie. I thought
Right.
it was hysterical. I
Right.
couldn't help it.
So-
Sometimes I just watch it because it's funny.
Oh yeah.
It's
Oh,
just
yeah.
I don't know if it's the acting.
All
I don't know if it's the
Oh,
kids.
It's all of it. It's all of it.
just-
It's all of it. It's all of it. All of it. The Order 66. It's just everything. It's just it's a great comedy, really.
I mean, and I love Star Wars, and I find the positive in anything that has an opening scroll. But
Right.
there is some things where you're like, that was something. That was a choice that we've made here, guys.
Right.
And I thought Order 66, in retrospect, has a lot of like, especially with the Clone Wars cartoons when they show it,
Right.
they've really rehabilitated it to the point
Yes.
where it's very awesome.
Right.
But sometimes when it first came out, you're like, ooh, that was rough. And to bring it back to Thanos, they show, him with Gamora and how he supposedly cares for his daughter and
Yeah.
all that other shit, and they don't really do a good job of making you feel like he really does.
Right.
Like when he pushes her like off that fucking cliff.
Yeah.
You're just like, this shit's goofy as fuck, man.
Right.
It really,
I actually enjoyed that. Not like in a sick way. More like I'm like, all right, this movie's got some balls.
I felt more impact emotionally, and I think you're supposed to.
Yes.
When Black Widow and Hawkeye, and they're both trying to kill themselves so the other one doesn't have to.
Yep.
I thought that scene was a very beautiful scene in the
Yep.
movie.
Mm-hmm.
But I thought when Thanos fucking looks like Grimace, and he wakes up and he's got like
He's like in a
he's got like the
pool, right?
one tear, like
Yeah.
he's the fucking on like the guy on the butter container.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like you're just like, what's happening? And I don't know, but the movie was definitely better than the book.
Yeah,
for sure.
And just circling it back, I think Thanos is a great villain. Maybe not in the comic books,
But in the
right now, in terms of
movie,
pop
oh, yeah.
culture,
Yeah, absolutely.
great villain.
I agree.
He's with Darth Vader.
I agree.
So PJ, this is my question for you.
Okay.
I'm just curious because we're talking about obscure characters, some who get love, some who don't. So this person did get a movie made. It was awful. It's
Oh,
the
boy.
Green Lantern.
Oh boy.
So I do think this. I think right now we know superhero movies are they're dying out right now. They're
They
not doing
really
too
are.
well. And I'm okay with that.
Me
And
too, I could use a
I
break.
think we need space. We need like one or two a year now.
Yeah,
The
we don't need
biggies
20
and-
of these things.
Yep, exactly. Which is fine, but maybe Disney and the other studios think differently. But anyway, I do think Green Lantern is a character that and one reason I want to talk about these obscure characters. We've seen the Batmans and Supermans. It's the reason why these movies are huge is because they're, I put my hands in quotation, like new characters.
Right.
Finally, these unknown characters are getting some love. That's why they're huge.
Right.
Iron Man, Thor,
Yep.
Ant-Man, Doctor Strange, even the Guardians of the Galaxy. Who
Yeah.
the hell is that?
Right.
I don't think it's a coincidence. All these names I just mentioned are some of the biggest bangers. Batman's always gonna make you money, but I feel like Green Lantern is one they can really. I think for DC they can.
Absolutely.
You need it fresh. So my question to you, PJ.
Yes.
Because I have my two choices.
Okay.
Who would you want to direct it? For real. I know I'm putting you on the spot.
Who would I want to
I know.
direct?
I'm making you. Okay. For the folks at home, I just gave PJ this question just now.
Just now.
And he has no time to think about it. Do you want me to go first? Who I would pick? Maybe that give you.
Yeah, give me a second. Give me a second. Yeah,
Okay.
you go first. And
Okay.
then,
So I picked 2, PJ.
Okay.
And I didn't write. I had it written down, and
Okay.
then I forgot to actually bring it with me. So, the first dude who I think would be, if a studio was here, they'd be like, Mike, I think we might go with that direction. Is
Okay.
Mike Newell. I think I'm pronouncing his name correctly. He's an older gentleman now. He's 81 years old, so I don't think this guy would maybe have enough energy to do it. Maybe I can be wrong. Maybe he has the energy of Mick Jagger. I'm not sure. But this is the same guy who made, like, these are the big films that you're going to know him from. Is Four Weddings and a Funeral, Donnie Brasco,
okay.
Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire,
Yep.
Prince of Persia, one with Drake Gyllenhaal. And I just feel like this guy would get Green Lantern. You can't to make the Green Lantern work. If the folks at home, basically the Green Lantern is a guy who puts a green. I'm making this a short version here.
Yep.
He's a guy who gets a ring. I'll say I don't want to use. I'll say has some magic. I'll say some magic elements. Basically, when you wear the ring, you can use your imagination to
Right.
You can make yourself a car. You can make a giant fist to punch someone. You make it self fly. Blah 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 blah. And the one that came out with Ryan Reynolds was just really like CGI overload. I don't even know how to describe that film. It felt like almost like too much of a. I know Ryan Reynolds is a comedian, you know. But
It was too much, though.
It felt like it was like
I agree.
it was just way off. But I think someone like him, Mike Newell, could make I feel like the tone of like a Goblet of Fire, the Harry Potter film. That's what that.
Yep.
You know, if I said that, where you're gonna have some special effects, but he's gonna be really concentrate on the character. Okay. And the other person who I think might do a good job of making this character, because a movie like Green Lantern, it can't be all about a fight. You have to have
Right.
like maybe 4 big action scenes with the special effects. Everything else has to be grounded. It has to feel like Batman '89 kind of
Yep.
thing, or even Spider-Man with Tobey Maguire.
Right,
That
yep.
kind of sense of
I'm with
you
you.
have your action, that overload of endless blabbering, or like a giant battle at the end, with
Right.
like Batman versus Superman. None of that. You can't do that. It's not going to work with them.
It's not, I agree.
If you want it to be like an Iron Man, you got to keep it grounded. The only guy who I think can handle the CGI and all this other crap is Peter Weir. That's the guy who did Dead Poets Society, Truman Show. I know it's kind of offbeat, but I feel like that guy would have the restraint. You know, he would have a giant like those things like on a train that you pull the brake back. He would
Right.
know how to really use it judiciously and be like, I really want us to focus on Green Lantern, because you could do interesting shit with him. Because I think, PJ, correct me if I'm wrong, is I think Green Lantern's the only, maybe not, this might be a bit of a stretch, but I think he's one of the few characters who use their powers to like win a girl's heart. He used it for basically selfish reasons.
He did a little bit.
So
Yeah.
I think that could be very interesting. Like to have a movie where it's very grounded, but he gets this, could be like, you know, Hal Jordan or whatever it
Right.
is. Was it John Smith, right?
John Stewart.
John
Yeah,
Stewart, yep.
Or Kyle Rayner if you
Yep,
want to
yep,
go.
yep,
Yeah.
yep.
So I'm thinking. So my immediate thought, and I've been, you know, again, I didn't have a lot of time to think about it.
Yeah, I'm
my
sorry,
immediate thought is Joe Johnston.
Oh, okay.
I say that he's made a tremendous amount of movies. Here's why I say that.
His movies, just to make sure I have the right, he's The Mummy, right? Am I wrong?
Joe Johnston did. The reason I pick him is because he did The Rocketeer.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
What else did he do? You have it on Wikipedia?
Yeah, I pulled it up just so I could give you his
Yeah.
list. But Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Yep.
The Rocketeer. The live action sequences of The Pagemaster.
Yep.
Jumanji.
Yep.
October Sky.
Oh, love that movie.
Jurassic Park 3.
I like that movie. Underrated.
It's better than the second one.
Yep.
Hidalgo. The Wolfman.
Yep. Benicio del Toro.
Yep. Captain America: The First Avenger.
I like that movie a lot.
Yep. Not Safe for Work, which I have not seen. And The Nutcracker and the Four Realms, which I have not seen. He also, I think, directed a couple episodes of The Young Indiana Jones Chronicles.
Okay.
I pick him because if we're starting with Hal Jordan, which is what I would do if
Yep.
you asked me to make a Green Lantern movie.
That's a very good choice, by the way. That's a great choice as a director. That's excellent choice.
The Rocketeer has a lot of elements that would apply to Hal Jordan. Hal
Yep.
Jordan is a fighter pilot.
Yep.
You know, he has no fear. He can fit. You know, a lot of willpower.
Yep.
I think there's a lot of similarities between that character and the character of the Rocketeer. I think he has a knack for superhero movies. He's, like I said, he's done Captain America.
Yeah.
He obviously knows how to do franchises and things
Yeah.
like that because he's done Jurassic Park. So I think that's kind of where my head first went.
That's a great choice. For real, no bullshit. Because you think about The Rocketeer, that movie too has its moments and then it has its grounded. You
Right.
gotta, in my opinion, to make Green Lantern work, you can't just have him use it. It's gonna
Right.
get too much. It's gonna turn
Yep.
into a kid's. It's gonna turn into the Mask. Honestly.
And the second thing that I thought of, and I don't know if it's just I could be crazy, because there's nothing in his repertoire or his catalog of films that would make you pick this person.
Right.
Though I think he would make a very interesting movie. Is Ron Howard?
Yes. PJ, what a great choice! Oh my God!
Yeah,
I love all our choices, but
yeah.
yours are for some off the top of your head right now.
Yeah,
good heavens!
When I think of some of the movies that he's made, they don't scream
Right.
superhero. I was trying to think like who has a good grasp on space, and I'm thinking Apollo 13.
Yep.
Not that it was a space or science fiction-y movie.
Right.
He did direct
The Han Solo.
the
right?
Han Solo movie. By the way, I like that Han Solo movie a
I've never
lot.
seen it, but I know people.
I know people shit on it. I happen to like it. I don't know how much I like of it is his and how much is the former director
Yeah.
who kind of got kicked off. And I forget who it was. Was it Andy Muschietti?
it was,
I don't
it was two
remember.
brothers. I think
Yeah,
it
I
was
don't
two
remember
friends.
who it
Or
was.
something like that.
I think that movie was good, and I
Right.
think the parts that are good are probably his. But I just think of some of his other movies, and they're all good, right? Backdraft.
Yep.
Cinderella Man is one of my favorite movies.
That's a great film.
I think that's one of my favorite
I
movies
think
of all
he did.
time.
What was it? Cocoon, right?
He did Cocoon.
Yeah.
I mean, he did the Da Vinci Code.
Right. The Grinch. What Jim Carrey?
He did. That's his as well. Yeah. I mean, he has a lot of great movies. I think what makes Ron Howard so good is I think he has a good grasp on characters.
Yes.
I think he really does a great job on characters. I think as an artist, I think his films always look very good. But I think he understands characters well.
Yep.
And I think a movie like Green Lantern should not rely on just a bunch of green
It
CGI.
can't. It cannot. It will
right.
not work.
I
It will
think
not work.
you have
It
to
will not
care
work.
about the character first. And you need... The Green Lantern as a character is very flawed. He's a flawed human being. He's, especially if we're talking Hal Jordan, he's not a stellar human, right? He's
Right.
not the best. He's great at what he does for a living, but then you take him out of that and he's kind of not the best.
Right.
So you need someone who really can make that character be relatable and likable while still being
Right.
kind of shitty
Yep.
while he's learning to be a hero. And I
Yeah.
think
And-
Ron Howard could do that.
Yeah, and I love the reasons why you said that. And I think too, if you're gonna use the ring, because you start using it like a child's toy, so it's
Right.
not gonna work. You have to almost make it like when the person uses the ring, it's almost like you're using the power of an atom bomb, or like
Right.
If let's say lightsabers were actually real, you can't be going around
Just swinging around.
You can't do
Right.
it. Right. You gotta, even if you're using it, you could actually cut your own hand
Right.
off. So like you have to use it when you're using this. You got to make sure you know how to use it right. So that's why you have these small action scenes when you using the thingy. Like
Yep.
so
And I think-
he doesn't melt himself.
I feel like those two people that I picked. I think your picks were great also. I had to pull one out of my back
But
pocket.
let me tell you, man, those were great.
Yeah, that's who I would pick.
Great stuff, PJ. Yeah, for folks who are listening, check out these unknown comics. Let us know what you think about. Who would you have direct Green Lantern? That's about it. Thanks for joining us. It was sensational, PJ. I loved it.
It was a great time. I like this episode because I like talking about comic books.
Yeah. You know the deal, folks. Same time, same table.
See you next week.
Boys and girls, lunchtime is over. Please visit PJ and Mike's website, coolkidslunchtable.podbean.com for more information. Follow the boys on all social media apps. Just search Cool Kids Lunch Table Podcast. Now get to class before you get detention.